This was made in China, so was this, and well, not that. But let's be honest, the majority of what you own is not made in America. In today's world, almost everything we use comes from some sort of global supply chain. Take your phone for example. It might be designed in California, but its display could come from South Korea, its processor from Taiwan, its battery from China, and then it's probably assembled in Vietnam or India. But what if that wasn't the case? What if everything, the design, the parts, the assembly, was all done in the United States? Sounds patriotic, right? So why don't we do it? If everything were made in America, the job opportunities would be massive. I mean, new factories being built across the country, more demand for engineers, designers, machine operators, welders, truck drivers. The entire ecosystem of production would explode. And we've seen this happen before during the Industrial Revolution. US cities exploded with manufacturing jobs. During World War II, America became the arsenal of democracy, building tanks, planes, and weapons on a scale never seen before. Even during COVID-19, tighter domestic supply chains led to rapid vaccine development and production, with a sharp focus on American research, logistics, and manufacturing. So why didn't we keep that momentum going? First, let's start with the obvious. Wages in the US are much higher than other countries like China, Vietnam, or Mexico, and there's a big reason for that. The cost of living in America has risen over 65% since the early 2000s. Housing, healthcare, food, everything costs more. So if a company wants to manufacture in America, it has to pay wages that reflect that reality. Let me give an example. A laptop that costs $900 today made overseas could cost over $2,000 if entirely built in the US. But why? This is because workers in China might earn $2 to $5 an hour. In America, they need about $18 to $25 per hour, and that's just to survive. Not only that, but US factories must follow labor laws, safety regulations, health insurance requirements, and environmental standards, all of which cost money, and none of that exists or is much looser in some overseas factories. So while it's more ethical to produce locally, it's also significantly more expensive. Now let's talk about materials to even manufacture to begin with. You can't build a phone or a car with just labor. You need the raw materials and components. But there's a problem. America doesn't mine or manufacture many of the parts we need. China, for example, controls over 60% of the world's rare earth mineral production, which is crucial for everything from batteries to even military tech. In fact, something as simple as a screw or a circuit board most likely comes from a factory overseas. Building a new domestic supply chain would mean massive investments, billions into mining, refining, and logistics that would take years to set up before it's even active. But let's say we actually did it. We mined, processed, and manufactured everything domestically. Cool, right? Well, you'd still run into the labor cost issue. You're now paying American wages for every step of the way, and the final product likely doubled if not tripled in price. Okay, let's say America went all in. We made everything, from microchips to the shoes you're wearing, within our own border. Would it actually work? Well, yes and no. The good part is you'd get tighter supply chains, meaning faster product development, less reliance on international politics, and more control during crisis situations like COVID. But there's a downside to this. Without global competition, US companies wouldn't be under any pressure to innovate as fast or price things competitively. You'll most likely see a massive spike in prices, slower product cycles, and even monopolistic behaviors by these big companies worse than before. Small startup companies wouldn't even be able to thrive because competing with big US manufacturers with massive resources would become almost impossible. And innovation happens the most when companies are pushed to compete against each other globally. But not everything would be negative if we were to do this. In fact, making everything in America could actually be somewhat better for the environment. US factories follow stricter environmental regulations that many other countries don't. There's less pollution, better waste disposal, and tighter emission controls. You'd eliminate a lot of international shipping as you wouldn't need massive container ships crossing the Pacific Ocean with every product you buy, reducing carbon usage massively. But this also means a huge increase in domestic energy usage. More factories equals more electricity, water, and resource consumption. So if we don't invest in renewable energy at the same time, it could actually counter those environmental gains. And obviously other countries won't stop producing, they'll just sell elsewhere, so global emission might not actually drop at all. So if everything was made in America, we'd gain jobs, national pride, maybe even cleaner production. But we'd also face some serious challenges, like higher prices for everyday products, fewer choices for consumers, slower innovation without global pressure, and even the risk of companies controlling the market and raising prices unchecked. It's not that making everything in America is bad, it's just not as simple as people think. But that's it for this video. If you liked it, feel free to subscribe, and yeah, peace.